Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Joe Imbriano coming to you from the bumpy roads of Fullerton, California. That's right, folks. The city where all the money's been stolen by somebody that should have went into fixing our roads. At least $100 million missing out of the city's coffers by my estimation. And we've got perverts that are running our state legislature that are married to morons on our city council. And nobody wants to do anything about it. And today's the day that the city council is going to meet to decide what to do with the police officers that murdered that homeless man. I just uploaded a video about my synopsis of that. I spent some time last night at the Fullerton Police Department. You can check out the footage. And there's also some footage in there when I'm narrating of one of the protests that took place years back. So good morning, folks. I just want to make sure that you all got my notifications. Can I see some yeses that the notifications are working? Because there's some issues with this channel. Yes. No. Yes. 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 Good. All right. So the notifications are working. So I guess some of the subscribers that are leaving are not happy with how I'm bashing these churches. And I drove around town yesterday, and all the churches were celebrating their holy day yesterday. They all had these events to lure people in to celebrate Satan's holiday. That's right, the day of death, the day that they celebrate every vile, wicked, evil, demonic-looking thing imaginable, and people walk around and dress up as every vile, demonic, wicked-looking thing imaginable. And the churches jump right in on promoting dressing up and putting on things that have the appearance of every vile, evil, disgusting, abominable thing imaginable. And Calvary Chapel La Habra had a real special. It looked like they were having a carnival, ladies and gentlemen. They had these huge blow-up slides and I think merry-go-rounds, and I mean that place looked like the fair. And well, what they do to the world with their doctrine of demons is deadly, folks. That's right, premillennial dispensationalism that is promoted by Calvary Chapel and all these pundits like Tim LaHaye and Chuck Missler and Hal Lindsey and Greg Laurie and Raul Reese, and of course the biggest one of them all, Mr. Jack Hibbs, folks. That's right. So, you know, this is all related. The title of this video is all related to the premillennial dispensationalist doctrine of demons out of the churches like Calvary Chapel. Because it all ties together, folks. It's all connected. That's right. They call it trunk or treat at these rip-off operations that they call churches. How do you set yourself apart from the world when you participate in its rituals and encourage children in your congregation to do that? And then, you know, my daughters were telling me that, oh yeah, well, you know, a lot of girls at my school, they don't ever celebrate Halloween because they go to church every Halloween. I said, oh, that's great. I said, tell me, are these the girls that all read Harry Potter? And she goes, oh yeah, they all read Harry Potter. You see, ladies and gentlemen, you see the blindness? You see the blindness now. I will admit that these are Koreans that go to the school. My wife is Korean. Beautiful, lovely lady. One of these days, I think you're all going to meet my wife. If not in heaven, maybe here. But you tell me how it makes any sense how kids could go to church 3 days a week and read Harry Potter, folks. Well, that's because the pastor is a moron. That's right. These pastors are a bunch of morons because they're not turning out converts. They're cranking out clients and they want their money. And they're actually working for the man, folks, because they're putting out the doctrine of demons. of premillennial dispensationalism, which has resulted in the deaths of millions and millions of innocent people through the deadly foreign policy that has been contrived to fit the phony narrative that the Bible has been twisted and beaten into supporting. That's right. Do I still have your attention, ladies and gentlemen? So what were the Twin Towers, folks? You know, I had a very, very interesting comment last night on one of my videos. And it was fascinating because one of the things that fascinated me about those Twin Towers was the construction. And it was a very unique type of construction. And I really questioned why they built it the way they did. And I also questioned this antenna that it had on the roof, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we will never know what those Twin Towers really were constructed for and what purpose they served, because this was the greatest crime scene in American history, and they destroyed all the evidence, ladies and gentlemen. They shipped all of the steel off to China, and all the nanothermite powder was scooped up and taken away. But my point is what in the world were the Twin Towers, folks? And I'm not talking about what did they symbolize. I'm talking about what function did they serve. Were they part of some sort of a Tesla technology? Were they? You won't find any information about this on the internet. I will tell you this. They spent a lot of money on that antenna. That was a really special antenna on the North Tower, folks. Those buildings had very unique metallic construction. That's right. So, I'm not going to get into what happened to those buildings, because we know that what happened to those buildings is not what they told us what happened to those buildings. And you know, every time I board an airplane out of Long Beach, I'll kind of knock on the fuselage as I walk up the gangplank to the door, and the thing's made out of aluminum. If you hit it hard enough, you can dent the thing. I don't know how in the world you can get some aluminum foil to penetrate those buildings the way the faked footage appeared to show. But that's another discussion, folks. I mean, those wings, they're so flexible. They're strong, but yet they're designed to deal with air, not to run into steel girders, folks. And how they can cut into that steel girder building like a hot knife into a stick of butter. Well, that just goes to show what you're willing to believe. I had a discussion not too long ago with somebody about Calvary Chapel and how they defended their pastor, Pastor Brian. That's right, the guy that hijacked Costa Mesa after Chuck died. And I said, hey, all this prophecy stuff, the Old Testament and the New Testament. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, how long you been going to this place? She says, I don't know, about 17 years. I said, how much money have you given these people? She goes, oh my gosh, I don't know, $100,000? Maybe more? I said, what do you get to show for it? Well, they send me a receipt every year for my taxes. No, I said, what do you have to show for what you've given these people? I mean, do you have any equity in the organization? Do you have any say in what they talk about or what they do or how they involve themselves in how they insert themselves into the discussion of how society is run and such forth? And she goes, well, no, that's up to the pastor. I said, let me ask you a question about this prophecy stuff that they're teaching. I said, if I took some guy out of the jungle in Zimbabwe who was walking around with a fig leaf over his cojones. And he's never read a lick of English in his life, and he's never been out of the jungle. He doesn't even know what a light bulb is. And if I took this guy to Las Vegas and put him on the Las Vegas Strip and pointed him in the direction of the roller coaster outside the New York casino, and I told him in his native language that that actually was a time machine, he would believe it. Because he's never seen a place like that in his life. He's never seen lights like that in his life, and he would have never seen a machine like that that goes that fast in his life and how it disappears around the back of the building in his life. And he would never have seen so many people come out of nowhere in his life, so he probably would be able to be convinced that he's looking at a time machine. Well, the same thing goes for that man. If I took him around the back of the building and showed him a rope connected to a trash bin, connected to a shopping cart, connected to a man, connected to a flashlight, holding a hot dog in his hand, and I could tell him that that was a spaceship. And he probably would believe it because he's never seen all those things in his life before. Well, that's what Calvary Chapel does with the Bible, folks. They connect stuff that's not related in the Old Testament and the New Testament. They make these passages work together in some twisted sister fashion to paint a picture that's not supposed to be painted, to fit an agenda for people that's not supposed to be fit, and to write a narrative that's not supposed to be written, folks. That's right. So the doctrine of demons of premillennial dispensationalism has some real rotten fruit. And what did Jesus talk about trees? He said, you'll know a tree by its fruit, folks. Well, I know what, it's funny because over the years, I've got well over 100 fruit trees on my property, folks, and I don't have a huge yard. I just have it all set up really nice where they're semi-dwarfs and they can coexist together really close, and I can get a yield in a very small area. All right, and so I'll have to admit, I bought so many fruit trees, when they were 20 bucks a piece at Home Depot, and some of these nurseries, I was picking these citrus trees up for 8, 10 bucks. I'd buy 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, just throw them in the car, stick them in the ground. Some of them I forgot what they were. But you know a tree by its fruit, because after a year or so, this one's producing Chi-Chi limes, and this one's producing Nagami kumquats. This one's producing Mewa kumquats. This one's producing a key lime. This one's producing a sweet lime. This one produces a Meyer lemon. This one produces a Eureka lemon. I mean, this one has a Valencia orange. This one has a navel orange. I mean, sometimes you can't tell. You can't even tell, even by the blossoms in some cases, but once the tree grows the fruit, you can tell the tree by its fruit, folks. Well, the fruit of Calvary Chapel is give me your money and don't worry about it, because Jesus is coming back, and the worse things get in the world, that means the better it is for the Christians, because they're going to get raptured out of here. Did you hear what I just said? They actually teach people that the worse things get in the world, that the closer it is for Jesus to return. You hear this self-fulfilling demonic crap they're teaching these people that is not biblical? That's right. Well, why bother? Things are going to have to get worse. I hear that all the time out of these people. That's right. These people that go to this Calvary Chapel and this dispensationalist stuff, and I know there's a lot of churches like, EV Free and East Side in Anaheim. These big mega churches are all into this lie, okay, of telling people that things have to get worse before Jesus comes back. Well, things are going to get worse. That's what the Bible says. No, it doesn't, ladies and gentlemen. No, it doesn't, unless you've been conned. See, people have not read it from beginning to the end. I'm not a Bible scholar. I've been through the thing about 5 times myself. Every time I read it, I get more confused and more interested, because there's so much in every couple lines. It's unbelievable. But if you look at it from the way it was written and the way it was supposed to be read through a lens of the people that were looking at it at the time it was read, to whom it was written, it's about a 6th grade level. And it was written in language that those people would understand at the time it was written. So, like, if you said to one of your friends, hey, what's going down, brother? And you took that sentence 2,000 years later and analyzed it in English, you would assume that that person is talking to his brother, and he's referring to an object that is descending from a position to a lower position. But you see, that's euphemism, that's slang, that's just talk that is not understood in those terms today. It's like, what's happening, man? That's what it means. But, you know, if you look at it 2,000 years later from a lens that is cloudy, because if you're not a Hebrew, if you're not somebody who was versed in the allegorical language that we used at the time the Bible was written and the New Testament was thrown together, you're going to miss the point. So, very, very, very interesting, folks. The con job is so deep, and it's so evil, and it's so wicked, and it's killing millions of people with the wars that this false narrative has written a certain group of people into as chosen ones. And then we, as a nation, become a cash register and a body bag factory to fight these proxy wars. We're being used to fight wars of aggression that fit a false narrative that's being falsely supported by criminal people in the pulpits, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what's going on with the churches and the seminaries. Dallas Theological Seminary, you know, and that's one of the big Loyola over in La Mirada, California. That place is a whole nother discussion. Did I mention that I was sitting in a church a couple years ago, and there was a guy named Clyde Cook? I mentioned this before, I'm going to mention it again. He was the president of that college, Bible Institute of Los Angeles, a huge place. I think they charge like $50,000 a year to send your kids there. He was the president of Biola University for, I don't know, 25, 35 years. This is the guy that heads one of the largest Christian colleges on the West Coast for decades. And he was up at the pulpit in EV Free Fullerton, Evangelical Free Church of Fullerton, on a Sunday with, I don't know, 2,000-3,000 people in the audience. And up on the Jumbotrons, he was discussing the heroes of the faith and examples of perseverance. People whose perseverance were noteworthy and exceptional. And up on that screen was reference to Moses, other heroes of the faith mentioned in the book of Hebrews. And then he puts up the picture of J.K. Rowling, ladies and gentlemen, the author of Harry Potter! This moronic scumbag that ran a Christian college for decades was extolling the perseverance and the virtue of this demonic creature named J.K. Rowling, who single-handedly has sucked more children's minds and hearts and souls into witchcraft and sorcery and spell casting and incantations and necromancy than any other author in human history besides Lucifer himself. And this man, Clyde Cook, who was the president of Biola University at a church in Orange County, had the gall, the audacity, and the stupidity to put up the picture of this vile woman who has done more to corrupt and pervert young children's minds than the devil himself. Well, maybe next to Disney. How's that? Well, I want to tell you something, folks. That man was dead in 6 months. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that was an explanation as to why he died early, but he was dead in 6 months, folks. When I tell you these things, there's a reason I tell you these things, folks. I'm trying to warn you about these false teachers, these doctrines of demons, these con men, and now con women in the pulpit. Get your daily dose of radiation at the church with the cell tower and the gal up there in the dress telling you what to think. That's right, folks. Look, wake up, all right? Back to the World Trade Centers, because that's the title of this, the Twin Towers. Well, they're gone now, and all of the remnants of the materials that were used to build that building, and obviously to destroy those buildings, has been removed. It was the largest crime scene destruction of evidence in United States history, and we know who the players were in that. You can look them up. Their names are public. They have have a lot in common, ladies and gentlemen. So what were they really? I have to admit, in my lifetime, I have seen several controlled demolitions take place, and I've seen 2 take place in person. That's right. I've seen them take place in Las Vegas. I've watched them pull these old casinos. It's quite a sight. Now, of course, it was done at night. But what was interesting about those demolition jobs in Vegas, and those were experts, by the way, they were so sloppy compared to the trade towers. Those twin towers, that was precision, ladies and gentlemen. Unbelievable precision. In those close quarters, the way that steel spine came down, that was amazing. Absolutely amazing. But what were those buildings really for, folks? Really? What was their purpose? And what was with the antenna up there? I mean, I have a lot of unanswered questions. All I know is that the architect of the Twin Towers, I think he built himself a couple buildings for the Federal Reserve too, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, some Japanese guy. Maybe a building for IBM. You know, big players, folks. Big players. Big players on the scene. I want you all to start doing some research on the antenna. Now, okay, they tell us it's a TV antenna that was put on top of that thing. All right. Okay. Really? 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 Was that a television antenna? I want you people that are into electronics or radar or radio communications, and some of you people that are into architecture, to start looking at the construction of the World Trade Centers. And I want you to consider Mr. Nikola Tesla's theories and some of his work that have to do with electricity. And I want you to ponder something that you've never pondered before. And that is, could those Twin Towers, not one, but 2 of them, could those Twin Towers with 2 buildings but 1 antenna, could they have been part of some form of technology that we're not being told about? Never in my life have I seen the laws of physics be suspended in a 24-hour period the way they were suspended 3 times on 9/11. With Building 1 and Building 2 coming down, and Building 7, which was not ostensibly hit by anything, it just came down. Aside from the strange fate those buildings met, and the bizarre circumstances that involved the ownership and the lease and the record insurance policies that were taken out and the put options on the airlines, all around the time that Rumsfeld announced that several trillion was missing from the Pentagon, the next day the accounting department gets hit with something that wasn't an airplane. I'm not going into that today, folks, but I want you to question what those Twin Towers were for and how they were built and the materials that have gone into those Twin Towers and the uniqueness of their construction, and of course the really special antenna that was placed on the North Tower. Really, really, really interesting, ladies and gentlemen. Really something to think about. And yes, 9/11 plays into this narrative of Bible prophecy that has been rewritten to accommodate certain people that want to control everybody and kill everybody off. That's right. There are people that are psychotics that think that they're the master race and that everybody else needs to be enslaved and killed. That's a fact, ladies and gentlemen. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do is turn on your television and you'll see how they're carrying out their dastardly deeds hidden in plain view. And they're using us to bomb countries back to the Stone Age and kill millions of people and destroy their infrastructure and starve them to death and reduce them to a meager existence of a hand to mouth and rummaging through garbage dumps and living like animals. That's right. Are you okay with this? I'm not. That's why I try to warn you people about what's being done. And there's a lot of different angles that are coming at us, ladies and gentlemen. All right, there's your homework assignment for today, folks. I'd like some feedback on what I've just asked for in the comments. I look forward to reading them and studying this further with all of you. And discussing this further with all of you, ladies and gentlemen. So stay tuned. And tune in. And turn on and don't drop out. I'm not Timothy Leary, folks. I want you all to remember something. That Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And no man comes to the Father but through him. And to whom much is given, much is required, folks. You understand what I'm telling you? To whom much is given, much is required. Okay? I'm not yelling and screaming today because I'll be yelling and screaming on the way home. I'll have a cup of coffee before I hit the road tonight, folks. And we'll get it going. We'll get the Ricky Ricardo accent going if you want to. If you guys like that, I got some good comments about that. And I'll explain it to you later on, okay? Does it sound good? Okay. ¿Está bien? Okay. Listo entonces. Listen, folks. God bless all you guys. Thanks for tuning in. And I really want you to look into the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center's construction and possible purpose. Because we're going to talk more about this. This is something you've never heard anywhere before. This is something that no one's talked about. This is something that needs to be talked about because there's something very, very important about those buildings. And there was a reason they were destroyed. And there was a reason they were destroyed in the fashion in which they were destroyed. And there's a reason why the crime scene was covered up, folks. They're hiding things from us, ladies and gentlemen. And I hope you survived yesterday. Because today is the day you shall choose whom you shall serve. And it better not be the devil, ladies and gentlemen. God bless in Jesus' name. Amen.